These weapons were the keys to the victory at the Battle of Bannockburn because they support the Skeldrum. The variety of the three different weapons applied during one battle led the Scottish infantry to undergo various combinations of attacks, allowing for the Scottish troops to be flexible and powerful at the Battle of Bannockburn. The first type of troop was a melee troop, or a shield soldier. He carried a shield called the targe. The targe was a round shield that had a spike at the center of it to push the enemies away. Under the shield, in the same hand, he carried a weapon called the dirk, a short blade that could subtly attack the enemy. The next, the broadsword, had intricate metal wirings at the base of the sword. So when he caught the enemy's blade, he was able to break it off, therefore rendering the enemy. He practiced strikes at several different areas of the body. The first was the underarms. The next was outside of the legs, and the after was the throat. The next type of infantry, the second line of infantry, carried something called the broadaxe. The broadaxe had a longer reach. As you can see, when he strikes, he has a farther reach so he could protect his ally in front of him and strike at the opponent in front of his. The next weapon he used was called the poleaxe. The poleaxe was used to pull the enemy warriors off their horses. So, due to these three weapons and the tactics, the Scottish army was able to be victorious at the Battle of Bannockburn. Now, on to the history. In the spring of 1314, Edward Bruce, brother of King Robert the Bruce, laid siege to English-held Stirling Castle. Unable to make any significant progress, he struck a deal with the castle's commander, Sir Philip Mowbray, that if the castle was not relieved by June 24th, it would be surrendered to the Scots. By the terms of the deal, a large English force was required to arrive within 3 miles of the castle by the specific date. This arrangement displeased King Robert, who wished to avoid decisive battles. Seeing an opportunity to regain the Scottish lands lost since his father's death in 1307, Edward prepared to march north that summer. Assembling a force numbering around 20,000 men, the army included seasoned veterans of the Scottish campaigns such as the Earl of Pembroke, Henry de Beaumont, and Robert Clifford. Departing on June 17th, it moved through Edinburgh and arrived south of Stirling on the 23rd. Long aware of Edward's intentions, Bruce was able to assemble 7,000 skilled troops as well as 500 cavalry under Sir Robert Keith. With the advantage of time, Bruce was able to train his soldiers and better prepare them for the coming battle. The basic Scottish unit, the shield troop, consisted of around 500 spearmen fighting as a cohesive unit. As the immobility of Skiltron had been fatal at the Battle of Falkirk, Bruce instructed his soldiers in fighting on the move. As the English marched north, Bruce shifted his army to the New Park, a wooded area overlooking the Falkirk-Stirling Road, as well as the marshes known as the Carse, and a small stream, the Bannockburn. English heavy cavalry favored firm ground. It was Bruce's goal to force Edward's heavy cavalry to move right over the Carse in order to reach Stirling. To accomplish this, camouflage pits 3 feet deep and containing caltrops were dug on both sides of the road. Once Edward's army was on the Carse, it would be constricted by the marshes and Bannockburn and forced to fight on a narrow front, thus negating its superior numbers. Despite this commanding position, Bruce debated giving battle until the last minute, but was swayed by reports that the English morale was low. On June 23rd, Mowbray arrived in Edward's camp and told the king that the battle was not necessary, as the terms of the bargain had been met. This advice was ignored, as part of the English army, led by the Earls of Gloucester and Hereford, moved to attack Bruce's division at the south end of the New Park. As the English approached, Sir Henry de Bohun, nephew of Earl of Hereford, spotted Bruce riding in front of his troops and charged. The Scottish king, unarmored and armed with only a battle-axe, turned and met Bohun's charge. Evading the knight's lance, Bruce cleaved Bohun's head in two with his axe. Bruce simply complained that he broke his axe. The incident helps inspire the Scots, and they, with the aid of the Pits, drove off the Gloucester and Hereford's attack. To the north, a small English force led by Henry de Beaumont and Robert Clifford was also beaten off by the Scottish division of the Earl of Moray. In both cases, the English cavalry was defeated by the solid wall of the Scottish spears. Unable to move up the road, Edward's army moved to the right, crossing the Bannockburn, and camped for the night on the Carse. At dawn on the 24th, with Edward's army surrounded on three sides by the Bannockburn, Bruce turned to the offensive move towards the English. As they drew near, they paused and knelt in prayer. Seeing this, Edward reportedly exclaimed, "Ha! They kneel for mercy." To which Enade replied, "Yes, sire, they kneel for mercy, but not from you. These men will conquer or die." As the Scots resumed their advance, the English rushed to form up, which proved difficult in confined space between the waters. Almost immediately, the Earl of Gloucester charged forward with his men. Colliding with the spears of Edward Bruce's division, Gloucester was killed and his charge broken. The Scottish army then reached the English, engaging them along the entire front. Trapped and pressed between the Scots and the waters, the English were unable to assume their battle formations, and soon their army became a disorganized mess. Pushing forward, the Scots soon began to gain ground, with the English dead and wounded being trampled, driving home their assault with cries of press on, the Scots attack, forced many in the English rear to flee back across the Bannockburn. Finally, the English were able to deploy their archers to attack the Scottish left. Seeing this new threat, Bruce ordered Sir Robert Keith to attack them with his light cavalry. Riding forward, Keith's men struck the archers, driving them from the field. As the English lines began to waver, the call went up, "On them! On them! They fail!" Surging with renewed strength, the Scots pressed home the attack. They were aided by the arrival of the small folk, those lacking training or weapons, who had been held in reserves. Their arrival, coupled with Edward's fleeing the field, led to the English army's collapse, and the rout ensued. The Battle of Bannockburn became the greatest victory in the history of Scotland. While full recognition of Scottish independence was still several years off, Bruce had driven the English from Scotland and secured his position as king. While exact numbers of Scottish casualties are not known, they are believed to be light. Records show that Edward lost around 9,000 men. Following the battle, Edward raced south and finally found safety at Dunbar Castle.
Sote se jola den ko